in bad shape. It's
So
just funny because,
what's that?
well, I just think it's funny because, you know, my friend Amanda, when she did it from Sedona too, she had that whole problem. She was speaking dolphin speak with you.
Amanda, what is her name?
Yeah,
Amanda
alchemy.
Smith. Amanda Smith?
Yeah, Amanda Smith.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
did you watch that? We're live, by the way. It's gonna take a couple of minutes.
Oh, hello
Uh,
everyone.
they're not in yet, but let me just so did you watch that show?
I did.
Wasn't
It
that
was really
amazing?
fun.
You know,
It
a
was
lot of
amazing.
you know, I was just told during that show just to go with it, right? You know, like there was something was happening. And of course the human gets in the way, just like with our downloads. It's like, oh, you're making this up. But yeah, I'm going to turn on the comments and on my page. We're on Zoom. If you're not on my page, can't see your comments, but that's cool. So yeah, so like I did that. We're talking about the Amanda Smith show that was 3 or 4 months back, and she did. It was incredible because it was code, and it was real, and this is part of what you know, what we're coming into is all the nonverbal stuff, or you know, the different tonal expressions in light and all the other different things. It's a pleasure to meet you. It's Deva.
Deva, Vidya, yes, a pleasure to meet you.
Deva, Vidya.
Mm-hmm.
So
when you were
everybody,
speaking, I was giving me like chills.
what's that?
When you were talking about the different frequencies coming through tonalities, like, you know, through the human voice, that was giving me chills.
Yeah,
You know,
everything is changing so rapidly.
Mhm.
Yeah, so this is typical Soulogy style. We're going to get to know each other in front of all of our brothers and sisters. I don't think
Fantastic.
we have any type of let me just, no, the next show's not for a while. Let's see. So we got plenty of time. Yeah, we got a little late start, no big deal. Anytime we have tech issues, though, we always have a great show like Amanda Smith's show.
Right. Well, that's why I was saying, because she's in Sedona and so am I. So I mean, maybe
Oh,
there's
you're in
something.
Sedona.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
do you live in Sedona?
I do.
Oh,
Yeah.
I never got to meet you the times I've been there. I
We
think
met very briefly at Sarah Adams' house.
oh, we did. Okay. I apologize for
That's okay. Don't
not
worry. I mean,
remembering.
I'm sure you meet a lot of people. So
Well, I remember that night very well because I was staying in VOC, and her place was like on the way to Sedona proper, right?
yeah,
And
it's all the way in, it's like towards Cottonwood. It's like on the edge of Sedona. Mm-hmm.
yeah, and I was going there, and it was just getting dark, and I went past Bell Rock, and I heard pull over right now.
Oh,
I'm like right now, and I'm in the bus, you know, which isn't, you know, like driving a car. So I had to find a place to pull over, and I pulled over. It was like a entrance to a residential area, so I had to like pull over and turn around. And then I stopped the bus. I'm like, okay, what's going on? And I got this huge download. I don't even remember what it was, but it was like massive. And then I walked in. I had to park because everybody was already there. So I had to park all the way up the street, and I'm walking down that hill to her house.
right.
And I walked in, I took my boots off, and it was like it was very surreal. And I met all these people. Alan was there, and I knew Alan, and I knew Sarah, and I knew a couple, but I met all these people, you included, and I was just like, wow. You know, it was just like walking into another dimension.
It is. That's Sedona for you. It's really, you know, we forget that other people that don't live here are not like accustomed to our world. And when they come into our world, it's like, what's so different about it, you know?
Well, it's you know, it's always been, every time I've ever been, I get lit. I mean, in a big way. The first time I went was for 6 weeks. I got called over there. I didn't, you know, I heard of Sedona, but I got called over there, and the first night I'm there, Anubis came in.
Oh, nice.
He's been with me he's the only thing I carry with me. I mean, people send me crystals and stuff, and I appreciate it. And I have things, and, you know, but that's the only thing that ever really. So he came in the first night, and he came in the last night.
Wow.
And the last night I was staying over by Chocolate Tree at Golden Light Retreat Center, which is
Okay.
like 2 streets over. And it was another surreal moment. I was at the what is it, the Sedona Bar and Grill, and all these people came, and they were doing light language, and we were just all out on the patio. And I had to go to I don't know where I was going the next day, but I had to catch a flight and all that. And I'm walking down this street. You know, those streets are dark too, right?
Yes.
So I'm coming off of 89A, and I'm walking, it's only like 2 blocks over, and I start walking down this street. You know, it's like in the direction of, what is that, Airport Mesa, or that big?
Okay. Yeah. So you're going towards the VOC.
Yeah, and I can't even see anything. And all of a sudden I hear this dog running up to me, a big dog, and it runs up to me, but I don't feel him. All I feel, he jumped on me, but I didn't feel him jump on me. In his breath, you know, like the breath of a dog, you can, when he's close to you.
Yeah.
And then it took off, and I looked, and I thought, what the hell was that? You know?
Wow. Oh, that's giving me more chills.
Well, it was Anubis, you know. He came in the night.
Amazing.
He came in the night I got there. And yeah, so Sedona is a really special place. I really can understand that. It's just been phenomenal. Of course, we had the Soulogy Fest there, and that was just like, you know, it's still a lasting impression. It was just amazing. It was just, we even had 6 Black Hawk helicopters come around the mountain and fly right over us at the time when it peaked.
That's
so you can't
crazy.
make that stuff up, right?
No. Yeah.
But anyway, so okay, let's shift gears. So like, how did this happen to you?
How did what happen?
How did you become so weird like the rest of us? Were you born this way? Did you have a big wake up experience like a lot of people do?
Well, I've always been the unusual one in my crowd, right? And I've always been very deeply spiritual, and always seeking out more, to try to find more. You know, I just really knew that there was more. And I actually, when I lived in Manhattan for 23 years, and there was nothing there when I lived there. There was like really no like soul family. So I actually became a born again Christian for 6 years.
Wow.
That was very interesting. And then I didn't know. I used to say that I was how did I used to say it before I knew the word empath? I used to say that I was empathetic, and because I knew that I could see that I was taking on other people's energies, but I didn't really know that that was a thing. I just knew that I was doing it, and I didn't know it was a gift that I would later use. But living in Manhattan,
I mean, that's a pretty high level. I mean, I can't really relate. You know I'm empathic, you know, like I guess we all are really, but certain people have that, you know, like my wife has that. And of course, I've talked to so many people over the years that have it, but that's a pretty high level of awareness to, I mean, you came to that awareness before you heard about Ascension, before 2012, before all that stuff. So you actually, that's a pretty strong self-awareness.
Yeah. So it was probably like in the 1990s, early 2000s, I was starting to really understand. Like I would walk into a room and I could feel the energy of a room, and it would either take me down or lift me up. I could feel, I coined the phrase psychic vampire like back in the 80s when I didn't know that was a thing either. And I used to know that people were just stealing my energy. I could feel them taking my energy from me. And
Wow.
you know, so now that's something that's a great gift that I've actually developed, so that when I am actually doing healings with people or in groups of people, I can signal people out, and I can feel in my body what's happening in their chakras, and I can feel what's happening, so that I can actually go in and address those issues energetically because of my ability to feel into them.
Yeah. So how did you, in the 90s, I'm asking you these questions because I know there's a lot of people waking up, and a lot of people waking up that they are empathic. And of course, waking up to we call, energy vampires. But how did you figure out that they were taking your energy? Was it through like codependent frequencies, or was it just strictly energetic, no words, like with strangers and stuff, or was it just people you knew?
I guess I was just always highly intuitive, and I didn't know that either. I thought that only special people were psychic, and I thought only special people were healers and intuitive, and that I was not that. So I never really associated myself with that. I thought you had to go to like one of those gypsies, like, with the crystal balls and in the window, and the sign in the window. So I never thought that I was a special person, but I intuitively knew, like, I would be in a group of people and I could feel like this dark energy. And I'm not sure if I would call it dark energy in those days, but I knew that it was, well, it was not good. I can't say that word very well, but, and I could feel that, that person was having this very dark, low vibrational energy. I didn't have that language in those days, but I could tell that. And I could just feel my energy leaving me and going into that other person. And so it wasn't like we were even having a relationship. It was just that we were in the same room, and I could feel that person really tugging on me. And after a
Wow,
while, I started to understand them.
that's interesting. Especially as we've come. We'll get back to it. But this is interesting. As we've come to this point in 2021, especially after the last 2 years or year and a half, where the whole perspective of what we refer to as dark and light and good and evil, polarities, we're taking on a new perspective because we know they're all the same, I mean, above this realm, so to speak. Please, everybody, don't get too literal. But like, that's like, it sounds like when you describe that to me, because it sounds like you were already very intuitive, obviously, and you didn't have words, but it almost sounds like when you describe that it's I can see it as like strictly magnetic. You know what I mean? Like, it's not even about the person. It's you're recognizing the energy, and in some way it's pulling on you, right? Like trying to pull your energy. Yeah, that's pretty. And yeah.
And it happens sometimes now, because usually I energetically protect myself now, because now I know that I'm so sensitive, and that people, if I leave myself open, especially in a place like Sedona, where people are coming to receive, energy, that I can be susceptible of that. So I protect myself, but, I work with a lot of groups of people out on the land, leading them on shamanic journeys. And sometimes, every once in a while, I'll feel that a person like coming, like, and I'll feel like this energy in my heart or in my solar plexus, and I'll feel like this tug, and I'm like, oops, I've got to, like, shield myself. Not that I don't want to help people. I mean, that's my whole sole purpose, is helping people, but me giving them my energy doesn't help them. I have to teach them how to raise their own vibration.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think that's another thing that we're coming to in 2021. It's interesting. Everybody knows that Franco graduated last week, and but it's interesting watching because it is energy, and not only is there the instance of what you're describing, where you're just doing your thing and there's an energetic force trying to pull your energy out of you, but we also give our energy away, which we know this. But it's interesting watching as things have unfolded, to include his graduation, because I can only celebrate his expansion and our expansion. But how, well, I'll give you an example. Two ladies, a lot of people sent me messages, and I talked about this, and I got another one yesterday. And the short of it was that they had gone into grief and in a deep sadness. And then within a day or two, they had written me back and said, you know what, I get this. It wasn't about him, it's about me. it's my grief and it's my loss of myself. And I mean, it was just so profound. I really feel like there was a big shift during this period. But yeah, you know, that's interesting because it both can come, like in your case, that you're describing, come just pull, like magnetically pull from you, or it can be through us consensually giving our energy away. That's interesting.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. And that's what happens, I think. And so you asked me how I became and weird like I am. So so how I
Hey,
came to do and be who I am is because I went through several dark nights of the soul. It seems that I go through dark nights of the soul every 10 years. And that's a lot of the time is because I had given my energy away. You
mhm.
know, a few different things. One was to that church that I became part of in the born again Christian church, because I knew, you know, deep in my heart that the dogma and the doctrine was not really truth for me, but I was wanting to be part of a spiritual community, so I gave my power away to it so I could be part of it. Another time it was through a narcissistic personality disorder partner that I had that really gave all my power away to. And so it was so every time I did this, it was like a leveling up for me because I had to go back and learn how to find my way back into like taking my power back or to like reclaiming my power. And through that, I had to find modalities to learn how to raise my vibration and to heal. And every time I did these different dark nights of the soul, I was just kept leveling up more and more and more, and just really coming to a higher understanding of who I truly am. And
Yeah.
it was very powerful.
Well, you know, that's really good information for people that might be tuning in on any of the platforms that are going through this type of thing. Because I'm noticing there's a lot more new people. It's kind of mushrooming, exploding,
Mm,
and I think that's what's happening. Is they're looking for the real life explanation. But I like what you say, because obviously there's a lot of different modalities, but it's all about you, right? Like, and I think the empath narcissist scenario is probably the loudest, you know, relationship scenario in these communities because it's such an empathic community. And
yes.
actually you look at it and it's just the perfect polarity, right? I mean, it's amazing. But I like the way that, you know, you're basically alluding that you had to pull away from, you know, the blame and the focus on that external narcissist, and you just raised your frequency, which is really what we're all coming to, right? I mean, that really serves ourselves, our brothers and sisters in the collective, doesn't it? There's nothing that does anything more than that.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And right now we are going through a collective dark night of the soul. And you know, many people are going through their own personal dark nights of the soul as microcosms of that collective. And so I just had I'm just coming through another dark night of the soul that was a big catalyst for me this January, the end of January. And that was through another relationship, through another one of those dynamics, and really finding my way back. And what I really come to understand is that our souls create these expansion opportunities,
Yeah.
right? So they're catalyzed through different things. For me, it's relationships, because this is my week, my trigger. You know, some other people, it might be through career or money, or I've known people that have had their house burnt down, or through their, you know, deaths in families, and all different kinds of ways of it happening. For me, it's been through these relationships, and even the church was a relationship to me. And
Yeah.
so, you know, and it's like this death. It's like dying to your old self and going through like this tunnel, and like a tunnel of darkness, and like feeling like that you can't breathe, that you don't know how to even like to survive through that experience. And through that, it's so painful, and there's so much suffering in it that it catalyzes you to find modalities to help you through that. And
Yeah.
that's how I learned how. That's how I realized I was a healer and an empath and a spiritual leader and a priestess. These were because I went through these dark nights, and within those, I started to heal myself, and I started to raise up my frequency through these through different modalities I was finding. But really what I was realizing was that I was just remembering all of the things that I had received and were gifts from previous or multidimensional lives that I was reclaiming now. And every time I went through these passages, I would come out and I'd be bigger and bolder so that I could help others to move through these passages. It was really beautiful, actually.
Absolutely. There's so many people, well, so many, energy practitioners have come on the show, and it's amazing the, the singularity in terms of their own individual experience, but the common threads that are throughout it. And it's interesting because in the last year and a half, I've watched that whole, well, everything's changed, right? So it's like, it's like there's, as more and more people begin to raise their frequency, there's more and more healers, basically. You know what I mean? It's like, I always understood when I woke up that, everything I was downloading was meant for me first and foremost, and then you can share it. But obviously your story is so similar to so many, openly saying, I just came out of a dark night of the soul and I've been awake I've been awake for a while, but that's the real deal. I mean, and you mentioned that you have a dark night you've had a dark night every 10 years.
Yes.
People talk about loops, the loops that as we spiral, it comes back and it comes back. How do you feel about going forward? Do you think, well, first of all, were the dark nights of the soul, I think they were with what you said, similar or the same? I guess they were relationship based. And do you think that they've been equalized, or do you think they ever get equalized? I wonder.
When you mean by equalized, you mean like that I finally moved through and
like they don't come back?
Okay.
like the empath and the narcissist scenario. I remember having a conversation with a friend of mine when we were in Hawaii, and she said to me, I'm with this, I'm trying to get past this. Now, she was out of the relationship, and I said, okay, so when you look at the narcissist, do you see yourself as them? Can you see, what I mean? Like, can you see them?
Like a mirror.
And she said no. And I said, well, there you go. I mean, they're one and the same. And if we're just going to sit here with our human brain and try to figure it out, it's never going to gel. But yeah, so like, that's a big one. How did you do that? How did you balance that out and take this, the stigma or the sting out of the projection onto that person?
Well, when I first started going through them, and the one I can remember, the earliest one I can remember is from the church. I'm sure I had other ones that I can't, but I didn't know anything. And then when I went through that whole experience in 2010 to 2012, somebody told me about the dark night of the soul. They said, oh, this person that you were with was a narcissistic personality disorder. Here, read this book. And this is what you're going through is a dark night of the soul. Here, read this book. And I was like, so then it actually gave me, just by shining the light on what I was going through, it was like, okay, now I know what I'm doing. And then, so when this one came up in January, I knew exactly what was happening. I knew, and I knew that, my higher self knows that I am going through this to catalyze growth and expansion so that I can level up even more to do my work in this world as the spiritual leader that I've come to be. And so that doesn't stop, though, the pain of the human, right? The pain of the human still is going through the suffering and the sadness and sorrow and the pain. And so it's sort of, it's a dichotomy, I guess, of like really trying to find that balance. So what it did do for me, and because I knew it was happening this time, was I dove deeply into finding new modalities that were going to help me. So my last Dark Night of the Soul that I went through, like from 2010 to 2012, that's when I became, I learned how to do all kinds of energy modality healing because I was just trying to heal myself. That's when I
Right.
started to work with, Peruvian shamanic traditions so that I could heal myself. I started working with the Native Americans and their traditions so that I could heal myself. Everything was to heal myself. And then when I came out of the Dark Night of the Soul, I had all this, like these tools that Spirit's like, okay, now take those tools and bring them to, to the collective so that you can help them. And now, so this time I knew, okay, well, now I have to go and dive deep into find new modalities to help myself move through this new Dark Night of the Soul. And so, I mean, I spent a lot of money and a lot of time doing a lot of healing this year.
You're worth it.
Sorry?
You're worth it.
Yes, I am totally worth it. Absolutely. And if there's going to be anything to spend money on, that was it, because I needed to move through that. And, so I was learning new things and new ways of leveling up, new things of like how to raise my vibration. And really, I think that what it really comes down to at the end of the day, all of these modalities are learning how to hold the light at all times, hold that vibration of the light and self-love. And really, when we come to that, then we can really balance out the energies. And like you're saying, it's all about self, because if we start to, blame the other person or the other situation that caused us to go into the Dark Night of the Soul, that was the catalyst for it, then we are just going to constantly be in that victim mode, constantly giving our power away, and never going to actually move past that. So that's how we move past it, is by claiming, okay, this is what's happening right now. How do I come back to my center? How do I find my power? How do I see myself as valuable and important and lovable, and really start to own that, and then hold the light? Because I really feel like that's what's really happening right now, is that all of us really need to hold that frequency of light right now. And we're all being catalyzed to see that darkness within us. That's why we are going through this Dark Night of the Soul, so that we can see all of those hidden aspects that are no longer helping us, but they're just holding us down, so that we can shine the light on them and transmute them, so that we can really hold that frequency to help the entire planet ascend.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, and I think that's going to be interesting to see how this plays out, because what we're looking at is our own darkness. Everyone's like, oh,
Exactly.
they're trying to get us, and they, but the reality is that's our projection. And so that's going to be interesting. I've always said, they used to talk about, oh, they're going to arrest all these people and they're going to take them to Gitmo and they're going to hang them. And I always thought to myself, it's not about that. It's going to be
Right.
about our level of compassion, our level of understanding. And that looks like a big transformation that would have to take place. But I actually think we're doing a pretty good job of it, because things seem to be moving very fast. I want to ask you about, I've never really considered that. You said that you spent a lot of money and but the Native American modalities, I've never considered. Was that like, did the Native American modality or tradition that you were exposed to, did they actually look at that and say there's, in self, in other words, hey, I'm off balance, I need to look at the dark, look at the light, whatever? Was it that kind of approach?
I'm just really trying to feel into that question so I can give you an answer. When we go into the sweat lodge, that's why we're going into the sweat lodge. We're going into the dark. We're
Right.
going into the dark to really sit with ourselves. You know, I've run many sweat lodge retreats for women to help, you know, after that 2010, 2012 Dark Night of the Soul, one of the things I started to do was to run women's retreats to help them to heal and to empower themselves. And going into the sweat lodge was very empowering for them, because a lot of them were really afraid to sit in the dark, really. I mean, it's amazing, grown women, but they're afraid to sit in the dark and in a closed area like this. And it's like, and so they really have to face their fears.
Yeah.
And so they might not talk about it so much, but what they're doing is really facing that, absolutely. And using the elements and the you know, nature, and really revering all of those elements to help us to heal.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
beautiful, actually.
That's a great explanation. I appreciate that. You know Artie Looking Hawk?
Sorry?
And you know Artie Looking Hawk?
Artie, yes. He
Okay,
lives in
so
Cornville?
yeah, he lives in Cornville. So I've only been in a sweat lodge one time, and it was my first trip to Sedona. Yeah. So we connected. We went. I was with this sister, and we went. We went by his house and went to that awesome. That's an awesome place. That place
I know. I love their
no,
house.
that's just incredible. You go down the stairs, and I mean, oh my God! Anyway, so just to validate your point, I hadn't thought about this, but so I went in with his sister. He was about to start a sweat lodge, and there was, I think, 4 parts to it. I had an appointment or a show, so I could only stay for the first one, which I think was like 15 or 20 minutes. But the sister that I was with, to your point, she only lasted about 5 minutes. She started hyperventilating and getting really, you know, nauseous, and she had to get out of there. So I never thought about that. You know, it was, you know, the drumming was going on, and it was a very profound vibration, the ancestors. I mean, I could feel it. And but yeah, I never thought about that. I guess that's shadow work, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. You're going in and you're facing that darkness within yourself, because when that curtain closes, it's just, you know, there may be like 20 people in the lodge with you, but it's just you and the glowing stones. You can't see anybody else.
And the
you know?
heat. Don't forget the heat.
Yes, the heat.
That kind of that, yeah, in the you know, like that's like being in the deep Arizona desert at 130 degrees. It's like you're just breathing heat, you know, it's crazy.
I know.
Wow. So what kind of so and another thing I've noticed too, and it sounds like this might be your case too, is I've noticed that you know, many energy practitioners have enhanced their tool belt, have modified their modalities, have picked up new modalities, have dropped modalities, you know, as things have evolved. Has that been the case with you? Do you have a pretty big tool belt, or do you focus on
I have a
certain
huge
things?
tool belt, and what I do is I don't claim anything. The only thing I do consistently is shamanic journeys. Every day, in the evening, I bring out people on the land and we do shamanic journeys.
Every day
But
you do this?
pretty
Every
much
day?
every day.
Is
Yeah.
that right? Well,
Yeah, pretty much.
tell me about that. So, no, well, let me ask you, how long have you been in Sedona?
It's going to be going on 3 years.
Oh, wow. Cool.
A
So
little bit
3
less than 3
years
years.
would be 2018. That's when I went. I went
I think
2018.
it's like probably like 20, like early 2019.
Yeah.
Yeah, I came to in 2018, but didn't stay. Came back and forth a few times, and then just decided to check it out, see if Sedona would support the work that I was doing, and Sedona really embraced me very,
That's
very
good. That's
beautifully.
good, because it doesn't embrace everybody.
No, I know that I'm here on a
Yeah.
divine purpose. I know that, you know, I'm one of the people. I really believe this deep in my heart, that I'm one of the people that is helping to build New Earth, and
Oh,
Sedona
absolutely.
is the
Yeah.
blueprint for New Earth.
So what happens if I come to Sedona? You're going to go out on a shamanic journey on the land. Can you just kind of walk us through that? Like, what happens on that? How long does
Sure.
it last? I mean, what goes on?
Well, it's 2 hours from start to finish because I have to meet you first. We have to gather all the people together. That's always fun, herding people together. And then once I finally find you, we do about like about 15, 20 minute, very light hike in a very beautiful scenic area. And it's really sweet. And I'll show everybody, some sacred plants and to explain to them how the Native Americans use these plants. And I'll show them different rock formations that are out in the view and tell them the importance of those. And then when we finally sit down, I explain to them what's going to happen in the shamanic journey and why we're going into the shamanic journey. And then the shamanic journey usually lasts about 45 minutes to an hour, which is a very long journey. Like when I first started, it was lasted like 15, 20 minutes. So my journeys go very long. And my journeys are different than other journeys because I infuse light language in them. And what I found, because I used to just do it like every once in a while, and whenever I would be called to do the light language in the journey, people would have profound experiences. So it was like they were having like these ayahuasca experiences in the shamanic journey. So now I really infuse it throughout the entire journey. I do light language speak and light language singing. And as I'm bringing them to the different places in the underworld to meet their spirit guides, to meet their guardian angels, to receive healing, to clear energy. There's so many things that we do. Sometimes we go to other planets, sometimes we go to other dimensions. So it really depends on the group because I ask their guides to show me where to take them and what to do. Yeah. And sometimes they meet ancestors or past loved ones. Sometimes their pets come through that have passed on. There's so many things that happen, and it's a very powerful experience for most people. Wow. As long as they're able to like let go. Some people are really like this and they don't receive anything, but if they're able to just open up and receive, they can really receive deep healing. Some people have like profound revelations or downloads. Some people receive they can feel their whole body vibrating and receiving that energy for healing. There's so much that happens. There's some people their whole chakra system realigns.
It's such a microcosm of life, right? Like what you said about some people are tense or contracted, right? And it's just like any session, it's like life now. I mean, life is like, how open are we? How open? Because like you said, all these different things can come in. Does it normally on these journeys, does it come in through you as a channel, or does it come through themselves, or both?
So that's a good question. So both ways. So I usually do a whole ceremony before we start, and I'll call in, I'll call in the 7 sacred directions, the 4 elements and the animal guides. And then I call in all of our spirit guides and our guardian angels and all of the divine allies. I'm not going to go through the whole list right now because it's quite a big list. But then I ask them all to channel through me to show me what I need to show them. And and to use my voice as a channel so that I can bring them into this journey through the English words and through the light language. And then there's times where I'll leave them, like when it's time for them to meet their spirit guide, for instance, I'll give them that time to be with their guide. And usually now what I do is I do the light language while they're meeting their guide because it actually assists them. Somehow or another, like I usually shake a shamanic rattle or I beat the shamanic drum. I like my rattle better. I love my drum. I love my drum, but for some reason the rattle really takes them deep into the trance. And so what I used to just shake the rattle while they were meeting their spirit guide. But now when I bring in that light language and the rattle, it seems to just bring them deeper into the experience. And so sometimes they have like, very much like an ayahuasca experience. They'll see like flashes of color and lights and all kinds of wild things going on. And so
that's powerful.
It's really powerful. Yeah.
It's powerful. And it's a powerful place to do it. I mean, you know, I've walked out on that land out there many times and had shamanic journeys. Just, you know, the last time I was there for Soulogy Fest, I was in VOC and I had 3 separate animal experiences. One was on the full moon, called me out of bed. I walked across the street onto the land and there was a big owl waiting for me. And so we connected. And then I think a couple nights later, I'm sitting on the patio, the second floor patio, and I heard this crazy noise. The next thing I know, there's 12 wild pigs right below me. And then the night before I left, I'm walking, I walked up to the Circle K, which was probably like half a mile, you know, quarter mile, whatever. And I was on that main street in VOC, and this coyote walked right up to me. Right. I mean, and I love what well, the thing that I love what you said too about these journeys is you said you take them to the underworld. And I think a lot of people, they don't understand, and I'm not trying to say right or wrong or debate anything. I'm just saying that, you know, we look up at the cosmos all the time. And there's such an external aspect to it, like God's up there kind of thing, right? But it's right beneath our feet, isn't it? You know, at least some of it.
And it's in here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, when we go, the portal is to go through the earth, but it's really what we're doing is when we go into because there's 3 worlds in the shamanic realms, right? There's the upper worlds, the underworlds, and then there's the middle earth. And so when we go into the upper worlds, what we're doing is we're really going into like the astral realms, and we're connecting with our higher self, right? And those aspects of our very etheric self. And then when we go into the underworld, we're really contacting those parts of us that are within our subconscious. And so we can really heal. That's why it's so powerful to heal. I've helped so many people heal trauma, whether it be childhood trauma or other kinds of trauma, in that underworld, like going deep in and like releasing and like really facing that stuff that's there. So it's really beautiful. And going, you know, because I think that we as Westerners, right, have, when we think of, we associate the underworld with hell, right? Because that's what we were told, right? We have the upper world is heaven and the underworld is hell, and so we're afraid to go there. So we don't want to go there. And so we've been already programmed to say, you know, don't ever go into the underworld. You know, you're going to be hurt there. You're going to find scary experiences. But this is actually where we heal.
That's right.
You know, and you really can't go into the upper world. You can't go into those astral planes without going to the underworld first and healing.
Yeah, that's interesting, because there's a lot of people that have a strong connection, and I'm speaking in terms of the last 10 years. You know, they channel, they download, they transmit, they're able to do different things, and of course, a lot of people have come to the conclusion that they can't hang out in the astral all the time, in the ethers, right? Because there's this whole thing about this cycle that we're in, or the cycle of life, which is the embodiment part. You know, we came to be human beings. And so I get what you're saying. You know, it's like you can't really embody unless you go into the underworld. And the underworld is like you said, your subconscious, your fears, your darkness, your shadows, right? Was that a challenge for you? I mean, you were very open about your dark nights of the soul. Did you have that challenge like some of the folks have had that have been on the show, where they spent their time where they were comfortable, you know, out here in the ethers, and struggled to be human?
No, I think that I actually found my way up into the astral planes because of my dark nights of the soul. Like, you know, because I was in the underworld, and I was seeking help from places where I'd never been before. I remember going to see this healer once. This is before I really was deep into the healing myself. and she did what matrix energetics. Have you ever heard of matrix energetics? It's a type of healing.
Mm.
But anyway, so she was doing this work with me, and she said, have you ever like called on your spirit guides before? I'm like, no. She's like, well, they're all waiting for you. She's like, you got to call on them. They can't help you until you actually call on them. So she, had me envision this door and opened the door, and all of them were standing behind it. I had to invite them in. And that was like the first time that I actually ever actually met any of my guides. I mean, I meet new guides all the time. I have hundreds of guides. I meet new ones every single day, but that was the first time I ever had any kind of encounter with guides or angels or anything like that. And it was because of the dark night of the soul. So that's what I mean. Like that's what I mean about how it's a catalyst for us to like level up and come into that more growth and expansion.
Yeah, I think, and of course, there's been a lot of that since 2012, give or take. The successive traumas, the estrangement from family, all that stuff. But it's interesting to hear you talk about the dark night of the soul just being in the recent past. And we had a brother on a few weeks ago, and he was talking about the first 3 months of this year. And he's obviously lit. But so it's really interesting to think of how much awareness has evolved over the last 10 years. And then on top of that, I'm talking about individually and then of course collectively, and we're seeing it like you talked about, and then also the speed of information. Even if you look at the internet is the highest physical manifestation of the ethers. I mean, think about the way our brains have been working the last 10 years or so, like babies, learning at a massive rate. And of course, evolving, biologically and otherwise, it's, carbon based to crystalline. But that's a powerful thing, right? Like, I mean, even like in your story, you're talking about what blessings are burdens, right? And burdens are blessings. Like you're talking about the magnitude of these, but you speak in reverence, really. You speak in reverence of these dark nights of the soul, which I think is something that maybe will start to spread for all of us, right?
Yeah, well, might as well start looking at it as a good thing, because we're all going to go through it. This is it. This is the time. I don't enjoy them. I don't call them in. It's not something that I want to go through. But when they come, when this one came, I knew that this was, it's actually better to know about it. It's just like anything. When you have the information about why something is happening, then you can navigate it in a better way. When I went through the first one with the church, that was very, very difficult for me. I didn't know what was happening. When I went through the second one, it was very, very difficult for me. But when people gave me this information that I was doing this, to expand and grow, and not just for myself, but for the entire collective consciousness I was doing this for. And then I was like, okay, well, let's do this, and we are astrologically going, we're going in through, the United States itself is going through its Pluto return. And this is going into the underworld. This is what it's all about. It's going into the underworld, facing that shadow. And each one of us we're being called to face that shadow. No more hiding from what has been plaguing us. What's really it's doing anyway, it's sabotaging our lives. If we don't look at these shadows and we don't transmute them, they're constantly sabotaging our lives. They're sabotaging our relationships. They're sabotaging how we interact in the world. They're sabotaging everything. So we might think that we're hiding from them, but we're not really hiding from them. They're running our lives. So it is a gift when this dark night of the soul comes up, because it's like, okay, now you got to face it. Here it is. Now you can't hide from it anymore. And now what are you going to do about it, right? Because it's going to be there until you shine your light on it and do some healing on it.
Yeah, you got to dive into the belly of the beast, the universal mother's womb, right? Have you noticed any difference in your clientele? Specifically like over the last year and a half, are you seeing like through your clientele,
Mhm.
you know, any evidence of the expanding consciousness collectively?
Absolutely. This year alone, I've had so many people come to me and tell me how they've just awakened this year, and that
Wow.
they're just like they're just coming on their spiritual journey this year. So it's huge. I mean, there's so many people who, I think because of the whole lockdown last year,
Yeah.
and a lot of, so much fear that was driven in, and that we really had to start to look at, the truth. Like, there's so many things that were being revealed about ourselves that we had to look at about our relationships. There were a lot of
Mm.
I mean, there's so many relationships, whether it be romantic or friendship or work relationships or family relationships, that are having huge upheavals right now. And so it's really causing people to stop and look. And a lot of people that have been coming to me are really shifting gears and
Wow.
big time. Hmm.
That's, you
Yeah.
know, it's really refreshing talking to you as well. And I'm not throwing rocks at anybody. I'm just making an observation. Uh, but you know, this talk of a solar flash, uh, Q is going to save the day, or you know, 3 days of darkness, or spaceships are going to land. You know, I
Mm.
mean, what you're talking about is really where it stops and starts, isn't it? I mean, it's like it's all about us, right? It's all about the
Yeah.
aware, our self-awareness, and I guess that's the universe in its, you know, in its genius, you know, expanding itself, and in our terms, in our from our perspective, to be human, to be present, and to be human, which
Absolutely.
really we think of that, I'm going to be present with you, which is accurate, but really presence with myself. That's the whole point,
Yes,
right? I mean, that's
absolutely.
really you know, that's really where that's it.
And to remember who we are, because that's the thing that I think that's really what's happening, is that we have forgotten, we are
Yeah.
such powerful beings. Like, I know this intuitively. I know that, like, the reason why I know this world has come to a place where it is because we forgot who we are. And
Hmm.
when we remember the powerful beings of light that we are, we don't need any spaceships. We don't need any bursts of light. We'll be the burst of light.
That's right.
We're gonna, like, right? And it's like, boom, here we are. We're hiding our light from ourselves. And because we're somehow or another, we've come to fear who we are. And now we are really emerging. It's like we're like that butterfly coming out of that chrysalis, and we're emerging,
Yeah.
and yeah, it hurts, when that butterfly has to push its wings against that chrysalis to come out. It hurts. It's not so
Yeah.
easy, and it spent all this time in the darkness. Right now it's coming out. So it's a lot of time. It's not scary to go into the darkness. You're not going to
Mm-mm.
get hurt there. Go there. When the butterfly goes into that chrysalis, it literally melts it, and it creates a new form.
Yeah.
So that's what I think we're all being called to do right now, is
Yeah.
to go into that darkness and find the truth of who we are, and then reemerge as this beautiful, amazing, powerful, magical being,
Yeah.
and I'm excited about that. I think it's
I
really
am too.
amazing.
I am too. And you're right. You know, it's not the darkness that hurts, it's the fear of the darkness that hurts. And
Yeah.
you know, and it's like anything else. Once we go in, and I think that's what we're doing. We've gone in, we go back. Like you went through it 3 times, every 10 years, you know, and it gets and you're you know, you're better for it. But yeah, I'm excited too. I just like, you know, wake up and I'm like, God, I I'm just happy to be alive, you know, spam. Uh I'm really am. I'm just going, the only thing I know is I'm alive. That's it. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
nobody on this earth, and I've had plenty, you know, plenty of what we would call, you know, dimensional experiences, apparitions. I mean, many, many things, and certainly with my wife as well. But when you really get down to it, nobody can prove to me that when this body perishes, that I'm intact, right? Like, I'm not saying that doesn't happen. I'm just saying it's not even worth me thinking about, because presence is presence. I mean, I could be worm dirt. We could all be,
Right.
a little dot on a petri dish in a first grader's chemistry lab, But that's the whole point to me. It's like I given all the work, and I firmly believe that what goes around comes around, the golden rule, that's like the rule of the universe. I mean, so we've worked so hard, and I got to believe we're going to have one hell of a coming out party. I think it's already started.
Absolutely. And that's why I love being in Sedona, because, we are creating new earth here. I mean, don't get me wrong, we have a lot of work to do, and we're actually a lot of us are coming together now, and we have been creating. Last year, I was doing new earth ceremonies every Sunday in my living room. Now we're starting to transmute that into a new form of really talking about moving, having ceremony, but also having conversation. What does that new earth, paradigm look like? And how do we create that? Because, there's a lot of discord, a dissonance that's happening here. Like that I explained to you about the different, conflicts that are happening. And this is not how new earth looks, right? We need to really learn how to come into a unified space, really to hold that oneness. And how do we, if I have a problem with you, if I have some kind of trigger with you, how do I approach you in the most conscious way? And if I can't approach you, how do I get the community to to support me, so that we can hold each other in the light, so that we can work through this trigger, whatever
Right.
it is, because nothing's not not able to be resolved. And this is what we've been doing, because they say that Sedona is the blueprint for New Earth, and that whatever happens here is going to be expanded out through the entire globe. And so it's so important what we're doing here right now. And a lot of us, a lot of people here are like those spiritual bypassers that, want to go and just like keep their vibration high every day, and go to ecstatic dance and go to this drum circle and this and that, and not really go into that shadow. But that is part of the shadow. Is like when we have conflict with each other, we have to also face that. We can't run away from it, So this is another aspect of it. And so I'm so proud of my Sedona tribe coming in and really having the conversation. Just last week we had a gathering. It was on the 20th. We had a beautiful gathering. There was like 50 people that showed up. And so proud of everyone that showed up, that we were just really there talking about how do we create this conscious community? How do we heal with the conflicts that are going on? And how do we hold the container so that we can be that model? So, I mean, it's really all about us. It's really about
I think
who
that's,
we are.
I applaud you. I think that's a great conversation to have. I mean, and Sedona is, again, an excellent microcosm, because I've been there, I've been through there enough to see the, whatever you want to call it, this commercialization, the hierarchy of politics and all that stuff. But you also have this conscious base that's, doing what you're talking about, which is very encouraging, which is not just going, hey, look what they're doing wrong, and fighting them, with a charge, but actually going in and going, how can we make this change by utilizing unity, right?
Yeah.
I just saw Patricia Cota Robles did her vlog for the week yesterday, and she's coming back on December 8th, by the way. And she says, or the title of it was, how do you affect change through unity? And I'm like, there it is. Okay, so people are starting to go, they're starting to go, one of the best examples I've seen was this Matthias De Stefano. That's
Oh, I love him.
yeah. So he everyone knows he's doing that intuition, right? That intuition series. I think it's in season 4 now. I just saw they came out with 3 more episodes. But he actually did one before that, and it's on Gaia, and it's called Journey of something, and it's only 3 episodes. And what he does is he actually documented his entire journey with film crew and everything from 2011. But there's a part in there, one of his first grid work deals. He went, it was like the 3rd or 4th one. He was in South America. He went to this place. He was supposed to go up to these mountains, and he was driving in a car, and a black snake circled around it, an energetic black snake, flips the car over.
What?
Totals the car. Now they're 200. Yeah, they're 200 kilometers from a city.
Holy
so
crap.
Keep that in mind. So it flips the car. Nobody gets hurt. They walk out of the car. 5 minutes later, an ambulance pulls up and says, "Are you guys all right?"
Wow.
So that was an interesting part of it. But what happened was, he was being, like we all have been. It's so interesting watching him, because it's the same pattern we all have. His is just, his role is much bigger in terms of awareness. So what ended up happening was, he got some feedback from his guides, and he said, "Hey man, there's obviously," because when he went back to the town and he told people what happened, they all said, "Yeah, we know. Happens all the time out there. There's these guardians there." So he told his guides, "Hey man, you want me to go up in the mountain, and this big fucking snake's going to come and eat me, or whatever." And they said, "No, here's how you do it." And he used the analogy that those entities and they are dark, but not evil, right? They're dark.
Right.
The guides explained to him that they're like dogs, like watchdogs, right? And so they're like some people talk about going to a gateway or a stargate, and there's 2 dragons there. So it's the same thing. So he explained that they were like dogs, and they were protecting the sacred place. So the bottom line is, he then went in all of his other adventures as well. He went into it and he said, "Listen, I honor and respect you. I'm not here." And he actually just communicated with them, and in that process discovered that they want expansion as well. So it really hit me strong, and I was like, wow. So this is something I've been doing in my own journey in an evolving way, kind of unconsciously, open your heart. I open my heart to dark energy in a basement that I'm cleaning out, where a bunch of bad stuff went in. Open my heart, because if source is all things, then what do I have to be worried about? I have full faith, right? So, but this took it deeper to me. And so then you can start to apply it to like your situation over there, because I've heard a lot of people in Sedona talk about, they're ruining this place, they're overbuilding, they're this and that. So how do you do that? How do you do that? And I think through what you're saying, you do it by talking about it first, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, it's going to
Absolutely.
take something new, right? I mean, it's going to take a new way, and unity is what we all are, and where we're headed. So
Right.
I applaud
And
you
the
for
fact
that.
is that when you're building new houses and tearing down sacred forest land in a place which should have been never built on in the first place, and now you're tearing down more, sacred forests to build new trees, that's because we're not connected. We're not connected to each other. We're not connected to Mother Earth. We're not connected to those sacred trees. And so it is time for us to come together and to come into that unified field of awareness and consciousness, because when we do, we're not going to want to cut down our sister trees. Those are our sisters, right?
They're
We're not
elders.
going to want to hurt the land. This is our mother, and it's not, it's right now it's about greed, because it's they're all becoming Airbnbs, because Airbnb has been like a big thing, so there's like, we have a big problem right now. A lot of people are, a lot of places can't even stay open because they don't have enough employees, because there's no place for the people that have low incomes to live. There's nowhere for them to live.
Yeah.
And so, because everything's turned into an Airbnb. And I love Airbnb. I think that Airbnb is a great platform, but the greed that people are taking it to is just not cool. You don't need to have these businesses coming in and creating tearing down land to build new Airbnbs when there's so many houses that are here already. And so I think that when we really start to remember our oneness with all things, with each other as human beings, and with ourselves, with all of the elements and all of the living beings here, even the ancestors and the spirits of the land, and we start to communicate with them and to see that we're all connected, then we won't hurt each other anymore like this, And so it is an important conversation to have.
It is.
And we're continuing having it. We have another brother come in from Shasta just recently, and he's holding these meetings also, teaching us about what he believes is a model for us to do, that he has created in Shasta. So we're actually having meetings about that with him as well.
I think I saw a clip of that. You probably know her, Brandy Weld.
Brandy
put up a live, and I think there was a guy up talking, and I listened for a while. It sounded pretty interesting, but yeah, a couple of things. Well, that was one of the things this Matthias was basically saying, was that, of course, in this case, he was having this conversation with entities, but energy is energy. And he didn't say compromise, but it was a middle ground, right? There was a middle ground. And so I'm going, well, yeah, you got to have a conversation. And so to hear this is, to me, very encouraging. And then the other thing I think of too, a lot of people will, I'm not on either side because I just don't go there. But some people will say we're killing Mother Earth. Other people will say Mother Earth is a big girl. Mother Earth it knows what she's doing, kind of thing. And who knows how this all works. But just like in Kauai, when we lived in Kauai, before we had gotten there, there was a bunch of commercialization occurring. And I went to Kauai from Sedona. I was told, your work is here, now go work with the mother, right? So the northwest side of Kauai is probably the most beautiful part. They kind of kept it out, but the growth got there and it started getting built up, and Mother Kauai just wiped it out.
Right.
Just the rain came and it just took. So that's my point. Sedona, this is all bigger than us, and it's, and just like this collective expansion, I mean, obviously we can kind of dictate, or we have a say, depending on the alignment or lack thereof, or the alignment of our thoughts, words, and actions. Let's just say our ability to face our shadows. We can kind of dictate the pace, the level of expansion, whatever, but it's happening anyway. You know what I mean? I mean, like, it's
Absolutely.
going down.
It's going to happen. And it's like, we can either be in alignment with that, and be going and riding the wave, riding that current, or we can be in resistance to it and suffer through it.
Let go or be dragged.
I
love that saying. I always love that saying.
True.
Well, you're really a breath of fresh air. It's nice to be able to, it's always nice to be able to talk to people that, and maybe it's all of us changing, because I know people have seen me change over the years, and I've shown my ass plenty of times back in that day, but it's so nice to be able to have a human to human conversation about, well, it's very much like what you're talking about in Sedona. You have a conversation about the meat and potatoes, boots on the ground, Yes, we're multidimensional. Yes, yes, yes to all of that. But hey, we're here for a reason, and let's make some magic, you know. And
Yeah.
I really feel like that we're on the cusp of seeing magical things beyond just our personal experiences. I mean, I think we're getting, you know, as people mobilize like you're doing with this group in Sedona. Yeah. What part of town do you live in?
I live very close to where you are staying at by Bell Rock in the VOC. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was at
Yeah.
the what was the name of that place? It was the last circle going out of town. It's a condo complex. It's across from the grocery store. It's across
Oh
from
yeah, I know. Yeah, I
yeah, it's
almost live
across
there,
from
but
that
mhm,
healthy burger place. It's right across the
right.
street. Yeah. So yeah, a lot of people live in VOC. I liked VOC a lot. In fact, I had Shamanic that full moon. It was been what, the end of May.
Okay.
That eclipse, it was an eclipse moon, and I got
Mm,
called out of bed. But I saw in that, one of the things that I saw was I saw what was, I'm going to say, you know, several thousand years ago, but it was a vision. I was just looking around the land, you know, the panorama of it all. And I saw, like, I would have to say 10, 15,000 natives gathered. And I was
wow.
told that we've done this many times. And, you know, it was pretty powerful. But that's a powerful place. I mean, my understanding is even the natives didn't live there. They all
Right.
would meet there, but they would not live there, right?
It's well, you know, the thing about Sedona, I tell this to my clients all the time, is that Sedona is a very, very high vibrational place. You know, because of the vortexes with the iron and the crystal, and it when you live here, you have no choice but to face your shadow,
That's right.
because it's so high vibrational. The high vibration starts to like really like shake up the density in your body and brings up that low vibration for you to look at. And so it's not an easy place to live. And so the Native Americans were, you know, they were in touch with themselves. They knew themselves, and they knew the land, and they knew that, you know, this is not a place to come and be, you know, messing with these energies. They would come here pilgrimages for ceremony
Yeah.
and for sacred birth and different sacred experiences. The reason why I feel like so many of us are being called here right now is because we are the reconvergence of many lifetimes of
Yeah.
Lemuria, of Atlantis in Egypt, and we reconverging to heal all of the dissonance that happened in those experiences, so that we can really truly create this heaven on earth here in Sedona right now. And that's why a lot of us are here.
Right on.
You know, I never thought that I'd live in the desert. I'm a big
See that?
short girl. I want
Yeah.
to be by the ocean, you know.
See, after the Soulogy Fest and you know, I thought, well, maybe we'll head back that way. But for me, it's and you're right. If you're going to go to Sedona, when I was going this last time for the Soulogy Fest, I was talking to Sedona for 3 or 4 weeks every night, you know. But yeah, you will. I've observed it in other people. You know, I've had my own, you know, situations. But man, it's a holy place.
Yeah.
It's an amazing holy place. Hawaii, I've been there, is amazing. Here where I'm at is amazing in Arkansas with these crystal beds. But
Hmm.
Sedona is like a super galactic, cosmic, angelic, off planet, off universe, everything super. Yeah, you lived in New York. Like, you ever see those spaghetti bowls? It's like on the highway where you have all the
Yeah, yeah.
highway. It's like a spaghetti bowl. And man, it's an incredible place. And I hope to get back
It,
through there in my travels.
yes, just so everyone knows, because so many people want to come and live here, that you have to be willing to do that work. You know, that's why so many people are transient. This is a very transient community, because
Yeah.
people come they're like, oh my God, Sedona is so beautiful. There's so many cool things happening here.
Right.
Then guess what? Then
You
all of a
better,
sudden, boom,
you better
here you
watch.
are. Look at yourself.
You better
You know?
watch your ass there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you never know what's going to happen. I mean, I can't complain at all, but I'm very sensitive to the energies. You know, like I went to the stupa on the last day of my first visit, and I did a live video, and I was just doing my normal thing. And then I went over, but stood by the Buddha, and this Indian guy, I'm talking like Eastern Indian, comes running down the mountain in tennis shoes and shorts and a t-shirt. That mountain is behind it. And he comes down, and I knew something was up, and he just walked up to me with this big smile and looked at me. And I said, how you doing? And then he said to me, do you know how to get out of here? And I'm like, well, the road's right. That's only one way in, right? And then anyway, so I jumped in the car. I'm driving down the road going to 89A, and he's jogging on the left side of the road. And as I'm about to pass him, he turns around, gets down on his haunches, and just smiles at me. And I knew in that moment that was an interdimensional shaman. That was an interdimensional being.
That's amazing.
So but yeah, you really, it's an incredible place. I'm like you. I wouldn't want to live in the desert, but if Sedona told me I needed to live there, I don't think I would argue. I think I'd rather go back to Mother Kauai myself, Morgan and I.
I would love to live in Kauai. I haven't been to Kauai yet, but it's been calling me for a long time now.
It's amazing. I've not been to the other islands, but I can tell you Kauai, we were there 10 months and we were called to the mainland, or we would have stayed. But yeah, we had everything. Everything happened. Dragons, Lemuria, ETs.
Wow.
You know, we had everything, but that's pretty normal for us. But over there, it was level up, you know, and then next thing you know, we're like sitting there, and it's like there's like that silence of the void for about 3 weeks. And I was like, oh, I think we're going to be leaving. And sure enough, she woke up one morning, looked at me, and she goes, are you thinking what I'm thinking? I'm like, yep, we're leaving. 8 days later, we were gone, you know.
Wow.
So, to do grid work, you know, or to do whatever we had to do, because we went all over the country. Hey, it's a pleasure meeting you. I'd love to get together with you again, maybe later, or maybe in December or first of the year.
That'd be great.
And then if I ever get over there to pop in and maybe go on one of your journeys and see what that's all about. That's pretty
Absolutely.
cool.
I'd love that. Yes. And just come and visit, have some coffee or something. That sounds great.
Absolutely.
All right.
Well, you take care, and all blessings to you and yours and all your endeavors. And thank you so much for coming in and sharing space and honoring us with your presence. I'm really pleased to jump back on the saddle after a few days off and start it with you. Very good.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much. We'll be back in an hour and a half with somebody. I can't remember who it is.